A song called Old Song. Y'all watch out now.
This is a Tinman podcast, and I am your host, Chris Tinius. If you have listened previously, you may have noticed some different intro music to this episode. This is a direct tie-in to my guest, Nguyen from the band Bonepony. Growing up in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and then attending Western Kentucky University in the early 2000s, Bonepony was not just a favorite band of mine, but an experience. The music was good, and the energy of a live show never disappointed. Throw in the group of teammates and friends I used to listen with, and anytime I hear a song these days, it immediately brings back a good memory. I've spent most of my life in athletics, but I've always had a passion for music. I am thrilled that my first episode diving into the world of music has a Bonepony connection with Nick joining me. Just like an old song that you always know the words to, this conversation was a pleasure for me to book, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Tinman podcast. I'm your host, Chris Tinius. Today, I am joined by Nguyen, who is a member of the band Bonepony. That was a big part of my college years and still a big part of my life, but especially some of the live performances that I got to see in Bowling Green and Louisville with a lot of my college buddies, and really happy to kind of start to reconnect with them a little bit. Nick is here today. Scott is going to come back and join us as well in a couple weeks. But Nick, thank you for taking the time to chat with me today.
Absolutely. Great to reconnect with old friends, especially the Western Kentucky. That was a big part of some great years for us.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun at Bruco, and I think I even saw you guys at the Armory a couple times and tailgating at Western games. And I don't know if you'll remember this, but one of my college teammates and roommates, his engagement party up here in Louisville at Flanagan's, you guys actually came up and played a night at a private party for that, which was a lot of fun.
Was that Ben?
Ben Berger, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Man, we saw him in Colorado, I think, at one point. Is that possible? He was a soccer player?
Ben was. Now, Matt Hockey was another guy we used to run around with, and he was out in Colorado for a while. But yeah, Ben could have been out there too. Who knows?
You guys, we had such a great support out of specifically Bowling Green back then, man. It was like we I don't know, we get 400 people on once a month there at Kelly Green's, whatever it was, and so it built up over the years that, man, especially back when we were touring 200 dates a year throughout mostly the U.S. We'd go in Seattle, places like that we didn't draw a whole lot, or in Southern California, and we get people in the eyes, Western, play soap, Jubilee, that kind of stuff. And so it was really cool to see all these ambassadors throughout the country with us, from Western Kentucky, man.
Yep, kind of had the Bonepony Army going there, and I know you guys, the exit in up at Evansville seemed to be a pretty good spot for you guys too.
Yeah, the exit in Nashville and the duck in Nashville, but the support we got was really cool. Yeah, the duck, we get people from Western to come to those satellite cities, man. I got to know a lot of people personally. And so, yeah, really, really cool. Always great to still run into all these people 20 years later that are now, running things, it's really cool.
Yeah. So like I said, we're going to try to get you back in a couple weeks and get Scott on as well, and maybe do things a little more in depth.
Scott would love that. Maybe we'll play you an acoustic song or something like that. I know.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Even better. But just to kind of, I think some of the people listening to this will obviously listen because they're friends of mine and will already know about you guys. But maybe for people that don't know as much about Bonepony, just a little bit about the origins of the group and how you got started.
Yeah, so the band was started with Scott and the previous guitar player. His name was Brian. In the early 90s in Baltimore. Scott was from Texas, but he ended up in Baltimore when he was in his 20s. He started a band, started coming to Nashville from there, and connected with a third guy and got a record deal with Capitol Records. And so mid-90s, they started touring the band, opening for Bob Seger and, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Santana, Jeff Beck, stuff like that. Under the corporate umbrella. And I joined in 99 when Brian left. And so in 99, we were just a full grassroots band. Sometimes you lose the corporate support if you don't sell, 500,000. We're on Capitol Records, so that they were also pushing Beatles One at the time, and Radiohead, which is breaking. We had the same A&R guys, and like your corporate, you're like, yeah, hey, you remember that CD I gave you of the other band that we also signed, Radiohead? Man, they just signed like 1 million records. You want to hear it? It's really cool. It's like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's like,
Right.
okay, that'll be that. So we just kept working hard at being a grassroots band, old school style kind of deal. And so 99, we started playing colleges a lot more and making those relationships like we did in Western, and really we're doing better as far as that goes, as far as ticket sales and just a true support, even more than when we were on the label, so yeah, we've been going ever since.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, that you can talk about how many records you've sold and that kind of stuff. I think the connection with the fans is always important, and you guys definitely had and still have that.
I mean, that's what gives you a real career as far as playing music for a living, creating the music you want to do for a living, more so than you could get a one-hit wonder thing where it's like a dance club kind of hit. People don't really connect with that for a 2-hour set. So we were lucky we kept it fresh, and we were, folks like you guys and all these. Kentucky has always been really good to us. Most people think we're from Kentucky because we played it so much. Still, we don't play it nearly as much, but the support we have from Kentucky is probably our biggest state.
Yeah. Now, as far as you personally, you play a wide array of instruments: guitar and banjo and mandolin and several other things. Just maybe give us a little bit of your background and how you broke into music, what you started playing, and then how you've kind of branched out since then.
That's a cool, interesting question, because I think a lot of people can relate to this. I know there's a lot of musicians in Kentucky, especially in Tennessee, obviously this whole area. And I started as a guitar player. I was born in Canada, grew up there till I was in middle school, then moved down to Nashville. And we lived in down in Brentwood. So all my friends in high school, parents were in the music business, seemed like, And I grew up on mostly guitar, and kind of dabbled around with other stuff, but it's all about just music, not so much the instrument. If you can try to keep your mind that way, my one of my best friends growing up, his dad played for Waylon Jennings, and so he was great with advice, and he's usually playing bass for Waylon, and then the next week he's playing guitar, and I was like, oh wow, I thought you played bass, and he's like, well, that's the deal. If you're going to make a living playing music, even for Waylon Jennings, if the guitar player leaves or whatever, you got to be a musician ideally, and just do whatever you got to do to take that spot. Sometimes, some people are just only specialists, and some people, to make a living, sometimes diversify. So that was the deal with Bonepony. Had a lot of acoustic bluegrass type instruments played in a rock and roll way, kind of like Zeppelin 3, Ronnie R. Staub, and all that kind of stuff. So one of the original founding members was also primarily a guitar player, but he played a lot of the different kind of instruments on Stomp Revival. And then we got Tramp from 96 to 04 for about 8 years, and his background was mostly fiddle, but same thing, he played all these other instruments. So when he announced that he was going to kind of retire and get off the road, then I had to kind of take that up. So I spent some time kind of learning these instruments, so so that's the deal. So guitar player, and then so I play these instruments at kind of different levels, you know what I mean? It's like guitar is kind of my native instrument, and I have much wider flexibility how quickly I can do things. Some of the other instruments, especially fiddle, I got to kind of really work at it to get a part down, and that's that. Man, all the other string stuff with frets is a little easier transition once I got used to the kind of the tuning. It was like, well, it's not too far from guitar, So but I love it. It keeps it fresh, and that's what music to me is all about. You're still in Kentucky, right?
Yes, sir.
And yeah, we know a lot of players in Kentucky, and that's just the even corporate people that are campfire players on the weekend. They all play a little something, and that's the spirit. People say, oh, I wish I could play, whatever. It's like, well, you don't all have to be Chris Carmichael or something like that on the fiddle. Sometimes you just make a tune. It's okay. It's just same with guitar players. Some of these lead singers, songwriters, they're not the most accomplished physical guys, but get that idea across,
Right.
and yeah, so it kind of started from there.
Well, my 5-year-old has been taking lessons. He just played Yellow Submarine at his spring recital, so he
Oh,
was
cool.
very very excited about that, and he's already asking to get an electric guitar for his next birthday. I'm like, well, we should
Oh,
maybe learn more than 3 chords first, and then we'll make sure you still like it when you're 6, and then we'll go from there. But
dude, man.
he's
Yeah,
having a blast with it.
keep that music flowing. It's such a, with everybody complaining about kids only on electronics. I love hearing that story. The when young kids are attracted to music and the arts, it seems to be an innate thing.
Yeah, no, he absolutely loves it. So, um, what do you guys have coming up in the near future? Any shows or anything that you're
Yeah.
recording, or what are you guys working on?
Yeah, we got really exhausted from being on the road. I think we did 3,000 gigs those first 15 years since I joined or something like that. We're doing almost 200 a year, from 99 till the mid 2010s. So the first record, like I mentioned, was on Capitol Records. So we never had the rights to it. You could always kind of play it live, of course, but as far as the record itself, so like Taylor Swift and a lot of country artists, a lot of rock artists, obviously, we've re-recorded Stomp Revival, and we're going to vinyl this time.
Okay,
So in fact, I have a test pressing that just came in the other day. Let me show that we're pretty pumped about.
very
Test
cool.
pressing for Stomp Revival. So this is the 20th anniversary of Jubilee this year. We've got quite a bit of new material as well. So now it's more about kind of getting things out, stagger them a little bit so we can make the most of it. So
Hmm.
we got the re-release of Stomp Revival on vinyl, and of course all the streaming stuff, and Jubilee, and of course a lot of new music mixed in with that. So we recorded some of that at Sunset Sound in LA, where lots of our music heroes recorded their records. And so we're doing kind of some select gigs, some cool festivals. We're kind of all like, we just did kind of a 2-man run down in Florida in Vero Beach and near Cocoa Beach this last weekend for Memorial Day. Then we're out doing some public things. We got a return to Evansville, Indiana,
Okay,
which is always a good turnout for us. And that's June 17th. Should be on our website, but June 17th at a place called Boca Lounge.
okay,
Then I think the week after that, we're in Salt Lake City. You guys can all kind of reach out to us if you're in those areas. A cool festival up in New York, doing one out in Malibu, and I'm sure we'll run into some old Western Kentucky former students, in some of these places. So yeah, we're doing kind of select, mostly weekends or once a week or a couple of weeks for the rest of the summer, and then take it from there. We'll probably do a pretty big bash in Nashville for the re-release of Stomp Revival, probably in the fall or something like that.
okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to keep my eyes out for that one.
We'll put the bat signal out, and hopefully people will come out from out of town. We got more people from out of town than from Nashville usually show up at those.
Oh, I'm sure people will be interested. So, talking with Nick Nguyen here from Bonepony. I'm just gonna spend a couple more minutes with them. Then, like I've said a couple times, we'll get him and Scott back in a couple weeks. I guess if you had to pick, kind of, and no pressure since we've already talked about Bowling Green and Western Kentucky, but if you had to, if we can leave that out. If you had to kind of pick, maybe your favorite spot to play, not necessarily might be because of the support you get, but might just be because of a cool environment. Whether there's 400 people or 4 people there, where's kind of been your favorite spot to play over the years?
So yeah, all pandering aside, Kentucky's always been really good to us. We've played all over that state, Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and the regular cities. Playing Nashville is always special to us. It's our hometown. I've always loved Charleston, South Carolina. That's another town that's always been good to us, and it's on the beach, and it's got a really cool vibe, we've always enjoyed kind of just when we do get to play New York City, because we get people that kind of come from all over to be in the city to see us, and it's a fun show. And then on the West Coast, we've always done pretty well in like the LA area, and specifically Malibu, because it's more of a laid back beach town, and people kind of heard of it. It sounds fancy, but it's not. I don't I think it has this cool non-city beach bum vibe out in Malibu, and we've always enjoyed that kind of deal. And shoot, man, other than that, I don't know where to start. It's what makes the room special is the people that are there. It really is. You can play a really cool special venue, and that's kind of cool, and it's that's a bucket list thing kind of thing. But there's nothing like playing some of these festivals we've done, or that we still do. Sometimes we play some private stuff, and it's people that just want to have us out because they grew up on us or whatever, and they'll invite 120 of their best friends, and they'll have this cool setup, and those are just magic, because just people that grew up on our stuff, that really means a lot to them. That's those are much more special and emotional than just playing, even if it's a packed club or something like that. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, and we've mentioned a couple of times, it's the connections that make the experiences special. And Nick, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. Yeah, and we'll look to get you back on here down the road with Scott and dive into it a bit more. And in the meantime, I look forward to kind of, for lack of a better way to put it, kind of hearing old music for the first time again with some of the stuff being re-released.
Yeah, I hope you'll enjoy it, and we're looking forward to sharing it. Yeah, we'll put some together with Scott. I know we'll enjoy it. He's usually the one running his mouth, not me, so it makes it easier for me. I can just do something else while he's talking.
Well, this was a way for you. Yeah, this was a way for you to get your thoughts in. If you might be overrun next time.
No. I like it that way. I just let him do his thing. But yeah, maybe we'll play a couple songs or something like that. So
sounds great. Yeah, looking forward to it, and we'll talk to you again here soon.
All right, Chris, I'll talk to you soon.
As you may know from my other episodes, I believe everyone has a soundtrack to their life. I can tie many major events, moments, and eras in my own life to certain songs. My college years and a unique group of friends will always be associated partly with Bonepony. I can't thank Nick enough for joining me, and I look forward to future visits. In the meantime, continue to look for the Tinman podcast on our website, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. We have also started uploading to YouTube, and this will be the first episode with video. Finally, you can follow on Twitter at the handle @TinmanPod. Regular listeners will know my love of Bruce Springsteen and how I try to tie a song of his to many episodes. This time, though, the song belongs, of course, to Bonepony. We'll take you out with a little Jubilee, a joyful song of celebration and good times. I'm Chris Tinius. Thanks for listening to the Tinman Podcast. Jubilee.